The country of origin no longer matters? This is so funny. The country of origin does matter. Who wants to have a guitar made in China?
Yeah, I see your point, man. Some of you have to be out of their mind to want a guitar made in China. Morning, everybody. It should be Sunday, August the 11th. Once again, trying the big Sunday morning experiment here, seeing if you guys like viewers' comments on that. Taking a bit of a gamble because I'm shooting a bunch of these for the summer so I can go travel in Europe and do that kind of shit and do Gear Street and all that cool stuff and hopefully get to meet a few of you guys at the same time. Anyway, this is my weekly roundup of comments, questions, that kind of stuff, and we've got a very interesting episode in store for you. Pop culture recommendations this week. There we go. Just going through my Audible list here. Running with the Devil by Noel Monk. He was Van Halen's manager, and he was under an NDA for a couple of decades, and then was finally able to do a release and tell about his experiences about managing Van Halen. Definitely a do not want to miss book if you're interested in any kind of rock history whatsoever. Very interesting stuff. I have to agree with a couple of Noel's observations about the Van Halen before and after David Lee Roth. Noel, you're definitely not alone in your conclusions there. I'd recommend definitely checking the book out. It's really quite an eye-opener. All right, let's get to your comments and questions right now.
Is everybody watching this channel that poor? I mean, all musicians today has to have a side job. Most musicians are richer than they never were before since they're forced to work's law.
Mart, what the fuck is wrong with you, buddy? Are all musicians this poor? Yes! Yes, they are. Talk about a boomer take. The world is not the same that you grew up in. Charles Schwab, the financial company, suggests the alarming reality is that nearly 60% of the population is one unexpected financial setback away from homelessness. Is that fucking sinking in? Do you get that? Do you understand that young people might not have the same financial opportunities that you did?
Oh, well, why can't they afford these awesome instruments and amplifiers?
Because they're too worried about making rent, you ignorant fuck. Do us all a favor, please. Slow down for 10 seconds, take a look at the world around you and see what's going on and see that people are struggling to get by because they're being squeezed out of the rental market, because they're being squeezed out of the housing market. Instruments are a fucking luxury. They're too worried about paying for groceries that they can't afford anymore. Yes, people are that poor. That's why I'm trying to recommend really awesome gear for not a whole lot of money, because most of the kids coming up these days just don't have any disposable income. And that is the reality of the situation. Bury your head in the sand as much as you like, but young people today are getting fucked and fucked royally.
Most people watching guitar reviews aren't exactly guitar heroes either. When I see you play guitar, it's a lot easier to imagine how I would play it compared to watching some guitar wizard who shreds up anything.
Asparasaugus? Hey, thanks, dude. Thanks so much for writing in. You know what? I think that's the first time I've ever seen something like that in the comments in nearly 10 years on YouTube. And I really do appreciate that. Yeah, and I understand most guitar players out there probably aren't, like next level shredders. Most people are probably just struggling to get by. I realize there's a million guitar players out there that are way better than me. I'm doing what I can to improve. I highly recommend you do the same. It's an awful lot of fun, and it is definitely worth the journey. And that's the other thing. Sometimes the chase is better than the catch, too. But the truth is, I tend to prefer to leave all the little mistakes in my reviews because, yeah, it shows that we're not all fucking perfect. Especially when we don't edit the living shit out of everything we see online.
This question may have been asked, but I'm just curious. In the never-ending journey to find a unique tone, do you think having two different brand speakers in one cab is a good idea?
Absolutely. If you're running a 4x12, I'd recommend pairs, like in an X pattern, but there's nothing wrong with mixing and matching speakers. Just make sure the impedance matches. Don't put 8 ohm speakers into a cabinet with 16 ohm speakers or vice versa. Make sure they're all 8s or they're all 16s. That's very important. As long as you do that, you can mix and match however you want. Now, a great example of that would, of course, be Edward Van Halen, who used greenbacks along with some JBLs with like metal covers. I still want to see if I can find myself a pair of those and see how those mic up, especially with my old vintage blackbacks. That might be a real cool thing to check out. Always got my eyes open for them, that's for sure. But yeah, don't be afraid to try a few different things. You might just wind up turning the world on its ear. Okay, from the SMG Discord, this is Darling AFK.
Hey Glenn, I've been subscribed for more years than I can remember ever since I was a shithead teen. Haven't been an active sub that watches videos or anything, but
oh man, dude, is there a fucking question in here somewhere, dude?
Every time I try to get into it, I feel like the initial cost of entry has been insanely high. Finding info on how to achieve certain things, the newbie always tends to down a massive rabbit hole for hours and end up having nothing done and overwhelmed. I know you do a lot of gear-centric content, but have you ever considered making your ideal newbie starter kit for guys like me who just want to fuck around and have fun without taking a mortgage out.
Hey man, that sounds like a great idea. I'd ask the rest of you guys, is that something you would like to see? You would like to see a Newbie's gear guitar guide or something like that? Where I can make recommendations on how to get killer tone for not a whole lot of money? I mean, like, we just had that big amp shoot out there a couple weeks ago, and I'm sure the Soldano fans were real happy with me about that one. Hey guys, frequencies and response graphs are what they are. And the truth is, a lot of these amps are all based off similar designs. So yes, there are some hidden gems out there where you can get some really great tones. You just gotta have a good speaker. That's the first thing I recommend. Just get a good fucking speaker. Speakers are inexpensive. They're like 100, 150, maybe 200 bucks tops. Get one of those. You're gonna have a far easier time getting good results. But yeah, that's a series I'm definitely looking at taking up on the show. And if that's something you want to see, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button because I will make it worth your time. All right, real quick. Today, I'm proud to show you the ultimate bass amp sim, Element Bass. You've been hearing it on my show in mix after mix for well over a year now. And so many of you have asked, what's up with that bass tone? How do I get it? And the answer is one simple plugin, Element Bass. We've designed this from the ground up to get you an awesome tone right out of the box. There's no more wondering why the bass doesn't work in a mix. Element Bass has everything you need to get a mix-ready, crushing bottom end with zero guesswork. Discover ultimate flexibility with up to 3 parallel tone stacks, each with their own separate EQ, plus our one-of-a-kind stereo enhancer, compression, and an impulse response loader. You can craft your tone in ways that were never possible before. From pounding metal to blues to country and even jazz, every great mix needs an element. Get your copy today at spectredigital.com. Links in the description below. Now let's get back to the show. Okay guys, it's time for my favorite part of the week. It's the Butthurt of the week. I love the Butthurt of the Week comments here because, especially ones that already get a reply in the fucking comments, because this is great because I can just read this shit.
That guitar could have been donated to a school music program.
What guitar did I smash this time? I don't even fucking remember. Oh, right. It was the Harley Benton Failure V. And here's a great response here from Ian White.
I work at School of Rock and with lots of children coming in and out of the building and lots of guitars on the walls. Even children figure out quickly which guitars are the shitty ones and then they never get picked up again.
Hey, Tim's Guitar Mods, put that in your blunt and smoke it. And while you're at it, why don't you donate one of your own guitars, you self-righteous prick?
When miking up a cab, does the grill make any significant difference if it is removed?
Hey, Sidruck, thanks so much for writing, and that's a great question. I remember having that question as well. Most likely not. Most grills are designed to be acoustically transparent, so if you can, peel back the grill and get a better mic position, and you can see what the fuck's going on, go for it. Do it. I remember having a good discussion with Cameron Webb, who worked with Motorhead and Megadeth and a whole bunch of other stuff. Cameron's a great guy. He always said he wants to get his mics so close to the speakers, he'd cut the grill off if he could get away with it. So keep that in mind. Yeah, the grill really doesn't do too much. Maybe it does slate with an angled cab, but I've tried it with and without, and yeah, no, it doesn't. I always wondered about that, so I went and bought one. And turns out, yeah, that's pretty much acoustically transparent as well. Grill cloths are cool. They look nice, but yeah, if you can pull one off, go for it. You'll get better results. It'll be way easier. Remember, just point your microphone at the splats on the speaker. You'll get good results. And get a Lewitt 640 Rex.
I did this 30 years ago. I found a Buzzy 5150 combo, took out the Chinese tubes, and put in vintage ones. I then put a hot plate on. It sounds killer.
Of course, 30 years ago, you probably didn't make a before and after recording showing us the before and after differences. And I'm guessing you kept all other things in exactly the same position, like the microphone that you did your AV test with. Yeah, who are we kidding here, man? That's the great memory over 30 years is a great filter, isn't it? It's really great when you can pull those stories out of your ass and you don't have to back anything up with any kind of evidence whatsoever. Fantastic story, man. Do us all a favor next time. Don't pull it out of your ass.
Using overdriven sounds is the absolute worst way to compare tone.
Right, because on a metal channel, obviously we should be using tuba.
I've got a question for you, Glenn. What do you think if somebody walks in your studio and says to you, I want a Catch Hell Blues guitar tone, can you help me out and get my sound rigged? What do you even do in that situation?
Well, the first thing I'd ask is, what the hell is a Catch Hell Blues tone? Can you give me some tone examples? And then I'd probably reach for a dual rectifier of all things, because it's basically a Fender Bassman with a fucking afterburner thrown in. Set that up for clean and run it into some vintage blackbacks, like my 77 blackbacks. That's probably going to get you pretty close. Or some modern greenbacks if you don't have vintage blackbacks kicking around. That's probably going to do just just fine. Case in point, I did the Regale album back in early 2003, and that was like a country Celtic kind of thing. And I was working with a guitar player, Greg Cox, who's, chicken pick and finger pick kind of guy, playing at telly, that kind of thing. That's exactly what we did. We ran him through a rectifier on clean. It sounded fucking phenomenal with that. So yeah, just work with what you have on hand and don't worry about it too much.
Hey Glenn, I have a question regarding Prism. Assuming I have a subscription and load some IRs from cloud, can I mix my project layer if I don't have internet connection? Loaded IR remains loaded. Greetings from Ukraine.
Hey, thanks so much for writing in. I actually reached out to the programmer about that just to double check on that. And this is the response right. Yeah, of course. It will go into offline mode. Any IRs that were already used, downloaded before, will be available. But of course, any that aren't won't be until he is online again. So yeah, if you've already got him loaded up, you are covered. No errors there whatsoever. Thanks so much for asking, man. Hey, even I learned something on that one.
Did you get an Audient desk a couple of years ago? I think that would have been just before the event when you were in LA. Yikes, I've been following you for a long time now. I know the Audient and your AMS Neve are different bees, but would you still recommend the Audient for tracking and mixing?
Oh yeah, the Audient stuff is really great. Believe me, I was looking at one when I was looking at getting a console for in here. I like the Neve because it's a little bit more automated. All the faders are automated. It's got recall. It's programmable EQs, programmable compressors. Like it really does the thing. I was even looking at the Genesis Blue, which didn't have all the digital integration, but I decided to go with the black and just go for the gusto there. But yeah, Audient is still a fantastic choice. Please talk to Andy at Audient if you have any questions about that. They're amazing people. Adam Steele's now working for them as well. He's doing their social medias. Adam's, of course, a great guy and just a wonderful friend. Yeah, the Audient people are a great bunch. If you have any questions at all, don't be afraid to reach out. I'm sure they'd be more than happy to help you out.
Hey Glenn, what about cancel culture? You were wondering why bands no longer tackle political issues. Imagine if they did. They would either get banned, trigger massive hate, or both. It's becoming increasingly hard to protest in a world where freedom of speech is gradually being suppressed. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. I mean, like, what are you criticizing? What are you protesting against? Because if you're protesting against certain ethnic groups, yeah, that shit's not going to fly. You can't be an asshole. But there's certainly nothing wrong with writing a protest about government oppression. I don't think anybody's, if somebody's going to get mad at you for that, then they're the problem, not you.
With using Cat 6 for analog audio, do you ever have issues with unshielded cables versus shielded and noise RF rejection of shielded twisted pairs? I built a Cat 6 RJ45 patch bay for my pedal board guitar amp, so instead of 4 cables back and forth, it's just a single 20-foot run of shielded Cat 6.
Yeah, funny you mentioned that. When I did the computer reinstall for the board, a few people were saying, "Oh, you really got to clean up your cable runs," and I'm like, "Yeah, you got a good point." I'm actually going to move my antelope from the rack, which is here, to one that's just hidden behind the desk here. That's the TV there is sitting on, because I don't actually physically touch it, so that's great. And I just picked myself up a whole bunch of Cat 5e cable that's all unshielded. The only time you need shielded Cat 5 is if you're running phantom power, and that's what I got for all the mic lines. That's all shielded Cat 5 or Cat 6, one of the two, I can't fucking remember. Because this is the thing why this stuff works. It's called quad twisted pair. The great thing about network cable is it's designed to send signal for thousands and thousands of feet. Works great for digital, also works great at analog because it's got great noise rejection. They're twisted at different ratios, so therefore you're not going to get any crosstalk. And the noise rejection is simply outstanding. This is the greatest, cheapest snake cable you are ever going to find. And that's why I wired my whole console and this whole studio with this stuff. It's just simply fantastic. And if you want the RJ45 to Cat 5 connectors, you want to contact Catherine North Electronics in Hamilton, Ontario. They build the best adapters out there. They're outstanding. Tell them I sent you.
Why not just get 500 series and rack mounts for your channels instead? Why a desk?
Recall more than anything. I did have the whole 500 series stuff going on there. I actually had 8 channels with EQs running into compressors, a bunch of SSL stuff, and a bunch of other mix and match stuff, and it was really great. But this I can load up and it just instantly recalls all the EQ settings, all the dynamic settings. Everything is exactly as I left it. When you have to crank content out for a living, you need any time advantage you can get. And believe me, this has been a massive quality of life improvement. It helps me get my job done faster, so I can spend less time in here and maybe more time with what really matters, and that's my wife. So there is that. Going the 500s route is absolutely fine, but then again, you kind of lose out on the whole mix bus and the whole fucking tactile thing. 500 series is great. This is way faster.
Hey Glenn, I'd love to see you go after a doom metal tone and give us some insights on how you would approach it for a recording. Think Electric Wizard, Sleep, or Fu Manchu.
Love Fu Manchu.
It would be very cool to see you shoot out some fuzz pedals, for example, a Behringer SF300 Super Fuzz, the Boss FSF2. What do you think your amp and speaker choice would be? I've had my eye on Slash and Hempbacks, which seem very good for the price, although I haven't seen many people comparing them. Thanks as always, and fuck you.
Wow, I did do a video on my vintage 66 Trainer YB1A, which is a phenomenal amp for Stony Rock. They call it the Canadian Plexi. It's very similar to a Plexi. It's a little bit fuzzier. I probably need to do a revisit on this and show exactly what the hell this thing can do. I think paired up with some fuzz pedals would probably be pretty freaking badass, that's for sure. I got to work with some stoner bands at some point and see what I can come up with. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for the suggestion. I'm definitely I'm going to give that one a revisit. But for speakers, yeah, it's like if you're gonna go with some hempbacks, they're great, but they're a little dark. So I'd say go with a blend. Get a dark speaker like hempback, and then maybe a creamback as a bright one, so you can mix and match on the board. You can blend the tones and find exactly what you're looking for. That way, you're not quite locked into one tone permanently. That's what I do anyway. Good luck, man. All right, guys, that's it for this episode. I hope to see you on the SMG Discord. Don't forget to grab yourself a copy of Element Bass. If you haven't yet, it is the ultimate all-in-one solution for recording bass guitar. Or grab yourself a copy of Extinction Level Event Drums. It's also fantastic. Once again, look for a shootout with the Millennium Drum Kit thing coming up real soon. We're going to be exploring some of that. I'm kind of curious to see how it's all going to turn out. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for subscribing, all that stuff. That's it for today's episode. Now, fuck off! This is so funny. The country, spell with a U.
Isn't there an O in country?
Nope.